Writers, in 5 short lessons, you are already doing a lot of work. Your writing should be incorporating varied sources, using powerful quotes, and you're writing longer papers with longer parts. So, the sophisticated content merits sophisticated presentation and conventions that match that. You'll want to have accurate and impressive citations and make sure that you've punctuated those quotes accurately. You'll want to attend to paragraphs and to transitions so these longer papers are still easy to follow. And you'll want your writing to look good. So today I want to teach you that writers do their best to attend to presentation and conventions themselves, using the tools at hand such as mentor texts, checklists, exemplars, and digital editing tools. Then they may turn to other writers to get a second pair of eyes and sometimes seek out expert help. So now I want to show you what it might look like to do some checking of the most urgent conventions. So first I want you to pause the video and read through this list and make a note. What are you familiar with? What do you know how to do? What do you have some questions about? So here is a sample article that we're going to work with. The very first thing that I notice is that there's no separation of paragraphs or any indentation of the paragraphs. So that's the first thing that we're going to fix. I want you to think really quick on the steps that you would take to make sure that you're indenting your paragraphs and using proper spacing. So in this first example, I simply indented each of the paragraphs. And you do that by putting your cursor at the beginning of the word and then hitting the tab button. Another option, as you can see here, is to have a line that separates each paragraph, some spacing in between them. And you simply push the enter button to have an extra line there. But you won't want to indent and have a space between your paragraphs. Writers typically have to choose. Would you rather indent your paragraphs or have a space in between each paragraph? But you won't want both. Regardless of which option you choose, you can see how much easier it is to read your paragraphs and to read your paper when you have proper spacing. The next thing that you'll want to do is make sure that your spelling is accurate, that your grammar is accurate. And when you're working within Google Docs, there's tools that you can use to help you with some of those concerns. So I'm going to click on Tools and then Spelling and Grammar. And once I click on Spelling and Grammar, you can see that you have to click on Spelling and Grammar Check one more time. There's also a shortcut that you can do Control-Alt-X. Now I'll want to review all of the suggestions one word at a time. Just because they are recommended doesn't mean that that's what you really wanted the word to be. So this first option says that I might have wanted to say world instead of swirled. And that is accurate. So I'm going to hit accept for that change. So the next suggestion is to change the word nor to or. So I want to point out that when you're working in Google Docs, if there is a spelling error, it is typically underlined with a red line. But if you see something that is underlined with a blue line, that is looking more at grammatical errors. So that's what this suggestion is. It's saying that it would be more proper to have the word or than nor. So I'm going to hit accept for this as well. So that was the first step of looking at correcting your spelling and your grammar There's two other things that you'll want to do. The next thing is to read through the paper yourself. Using the spell check and the grammar check is not 100% accurate, so you will want to read through your paper with a lens for checking your spelling and grammar. And then the last thing is to have another set of eyes read through your paper. So you might want to ask one of your peers or one of your parents to read through your paper as well. Another thing that you'll want to do is insert page numbers into your document. So first I click on the insert button and then I click on page numbers. And then once I click on the page numbers, I'll have an option of where I want the page number to show up in my document. With the types of papers that you are writing during this unit, your best option is to have the page number listed in the bottom right-hand corner. The next thing that you'll want to do is make sure that your paper is double spaced. So first you'll click on Format, then Line Spacing, and then in this case, I'll choose Double. So you'll notice that when I went through those steps, it double spaced my top paragraph, but not my bottom paragraph. So there's two ways that you can deal with this. The first thing is you can highlight all of your paper and then go to the format double spacing, and then that would take care of that. In this instance, I'm going to have to go back and then make sure that my next paragraph is also double spaced. The next thing we need to do is make sure that you're using Times New Roman font. I know that my Google Docs are defaulted to another font that I like better, but when you are writing a paper like this, more of a professional paper, you do want to use Times New Roman. So I'm going to click on the font button up above here, and then scroll down and find Times New Roman. The next thing we'll want to do is check the font size. You will want your font to be size 12. So again, I'm going to click on the font size button and then scroll down to the recommended size of 12. If you are working within a Google Doc where the default is something other than Times New Roman or other than 12 font, you will want that to be one of the last things that you do, is to double check the font and the font size, because they will often revert back within a document as well. So you'll always want to double check those at the end. And now we're going to double check the margins, how your page is set up. Typically the default is 1 inch on each of the margins. So unless you've changed that, that should be what you want to keep it at. So I'm going to click on File and then scroll down to Page Setup and then verify that all of my margins are set at 1 inch. So I want to share one last tip with you before we end the teaching video today, and that is the transitional phrases that you can use to help guide the reader. In the past, I'm sure you've been using words like first, next, and finally. But we want to lift the level of the words that we're using to transition our reader. So here are some examples that you might want to try to embed in your writing piece. You'll want to keep this list handy and try using some of these phrases in your writing. Writers, it's actually harder to edit your own writing than you might think. So we're going to take some time today to practice this work in your writing. Go back to the lesson platform for your next activity and for your assignments for today. Okay, writers, off you go.